smaller basket.
So I told her,
I said, if they had known I think maybe they could change it on the fly. I didn't know.
You have to come to commission and ask for that.
Can she do it today?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that could be. She said, do I have to show up? I said, you do if you want to.
I know, I saw that.
She can change it on the fly. And there are examples, and I told her that. I said, we want to
I carry my purse like that.
What if I just do it? I'm like, well, then you'll get sent to the
because Mark,
I think those are always funny.
Yeah, carry first.
That's right.
yeah.
Or a clutch, which I like the look of, but I like to sling things over me so I don't have to hold on to them. Obviously, she doesn't walk downtown much.
Yeah. Maybe she's here, but I need to meet them anyway. Because I'm in agreement with y'all on all of them. Okay.
So give us.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go just camp over there.
Do you want to find out? Yeah.
I don't know that I need it.
One off.
I want to go position to the one on that y'all are rejecting. I can if it'll help her.
I mean, it could.
Okay. Do I need to do one for each? It's been so long. Okay. You've got my letter, so I'll, I don't know what. I do know what it is. Okay, I'll do two. Okay. That's all right.
Are you okay with the change of the date? I think
Oh, what time? Wait, is it? Yeah, and as long as it's in the morning. I work in the afternoon. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not going to be here the last week in October, just so you'll know if you want to, or I can email it to you. I'm going to be in Boulder with my niece. Okay.
I have to recuse myself from one.
Which one?
Item 10, I got paid to do work at that address by this applicant. Once upon a time.
Oh, it's in consent anyway.
Hopefully, I'll still make that. No, nothing.
Is that, what's his name's? Yeah. He should be okay.
Yeah, I don't think it will affect anything. Abstain or whatever the word is.
Yeah. Well, if we do it on consent, unless somebody says anything, it's not going to go anywhere anyway. I mean, he put the pictures in of.
Oh, it's a nice, yeah, it's nice.
He put it in where you could see what it looks like in comparison to the rest of the block.
Yeah, no, it's a nice project.
Yeah.
I just don't want to.
No, I understand.
By default, be voting yes.
Right,
So when I cast my vote for the consent agenda, I'll say with exception to.
right. And I don't think it counts that Jack's office was in that building for a million years. No, he
Probably
would,
got more connection than I do, but no, it officially doesn't count.
not that one, but the one
Oh,
the one Kelly's doing
oh,
at the
right.
Front Street
Oh,
Deli.
Right.
They have Wi-Fi in
Yes.
Got it.
Well, my phone, I don't know, because my phone always is connected anyway, so I say yes, but I don't know. Okay. All right. Good afternoon. The Memphis Landmarks Commission meeting of August 26 is hereby called to order for its regularly scheduled meeting. My name is Cindy Tucker, and I'm the chairperson of the commission. Mr. Ragsdale serves as the executive secretary of the commission. Mr. Ragsdale, may I get a roll call? Oops, sorry, did I screw up?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ms. Boyd.
Here.
Mr. Gill. Here. Ms. Love.
Here.
Ms. Payne.
Here.
Ms. Strong.
Here.
Mr. Warren. Here. Chair Tucker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The Memphis Landmarks Commission and the local historic district provisions are established to ensure preservation of structures that are of historic value to Memphis. Our function is to preserve significant resources, enhance community pride, and foster civic beauty and ensure compatibility within designated historic districts. The Commission is authorized to review projects and determine their appropriateness based on the design review guidelines. At this time, I would like to swear in the staff. You may remain seated. Okay, all right. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last month's meeting? Unless there's any corrections.
Madam Chair, I motion that we approve last month's meetings.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Mr. Secretary, please provide a secretary's report, if there is one this month, and then explain the procedure for this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We don't have a secretary's report necessarily, but I do have an item that I did want to mention. We have our design review meeting scheduled for the rest of the year, which is typically the second Tuesday of the month at 8:30. And I think most of the people, the neighborhood representatives, are aware of that, and the commissioners. We are trying to make that meeting more accessible for everyone, as well as provide additional time for the commission and the neighborhood representatives to review the cases prior to that meeting, while also allowing enough time between that meeting and the commission meeting to work with the applicants on any changes that might be made. So we're trying to balance that, and I polled the commission yesterday to try to find a good time for that, and we found that the second Wednesday of the month will give us about 4 more days of review time plus a weekend, and that will still give us about 2 weeks prior to the commission meeting for any changes. So we think that's a good balance, and hopefully that will allow more neighborhood representatives as well as commissioners to attend, because that meeting has become very valuable. And I think doing it via Zoom while we're doing public meetings in person still, we've gone back to that. The Zoom for the design review meeting seems to be a really good option for most people. So I just wanted to make that announcement. We'll send an email out to that effect tomorrow. So it'll be the second Wednesday at 9 o'clock. So, all right.
Thank you.
Now I'll explain the procedures for the meeting. The procedure for this meeting will be as follows. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. Copies of the agenda can be found at the podium next to the entrance, at the podium. For each case, staff for the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, the commission will hear first from those speakers in support of the application, then from those speakers in opposition to the application, and the speakers will have 3 minutes each. And then finally, the applicant will have 3 minutes to provide rebuttal. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the commission. The chairwoman may provide additional time, provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. All parties who wish to provide testimony to the commission will be sworn in by the chairwoman. If a member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support or opposition to the particular case on today's agenda, he or she will need to fill out a speaker's card for the record. Speaker's cards are available at the front podium as well. Once filled out, speaker's cards can be submitted to any DPD staff member at the left podium. We do not need speaker's cards from the applicants since their names are already part of the record. After all parties have been heard, the commission will close the public hearing, make a motion, and then deliberate on the case. All motions by the commission will be made in the affirmative. The bylaws governing the commission require the affirmative vote of a majority of the attending members to approve an application. The commission may also vote to hold an application for a period of 1 month. Madam Chair, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified of this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this point, the commission will establish a consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the secretary will call out each eligible case. If any member of the audience or the commission objects to a case being placed on the consent agenda, he or she should do so by a show of hands when the secretary reads the case. Once the consent agenda is established, the commission will vote on all cases placed on the agenda as a whole and will not hold individual public hearings on each case. Mr. Secretary, which items are on the agenda are eligible?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to note also that item number 2 is being held for 1 month, the Kimbrough Towers case, which was held from last month as well. The cases eligible to be on consent are item number 3, COA 2021-090, 1050 Tanglewood Street. Item number 4, COA 2021-111, 1568 Netherwood Avenue. And I just was informed that the applicant would like to discuss item number 4, so it will not be on consent. Item number 5, COA 2021-113, 637 Adams Avenue. Item number 6, COA 2021-115, 641 Adams Avenue. Item number 7, COA 2021-116, 77, 81, and 85 South Front. Item number 9, COA 2021-121, 600 South McLean Boulevard. Item number 10, COA 2021-123, 47 South Main Street.
I'm sorry?
Do we have opposition to 12? Okay. Item number 12. And item number 12, COA 2021-128, 1228 and 1234 Harbert Avenue.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as established by the secretary?
Madam Chair, I have a comment before the motion. And Secretary Ragsdale, I would like to abstain. I will vote on the consent agenda with, hold on, let me turn on my mic here. I would like to vote on the consent agenda with the exception of item 10, which is at a property for which I have been compensated for previous architectural work. So can that be entered into the record?
Did you hear?
Check. Hey, I'm going to vote on the consent agenda with the exception of item 10. And I'm going to abstain from the vote on item 10 that I've done past work for hire at that address by this applicant.
Okay.
Thank you. May I have a second? I second. Okay, thank you. I would like to remind the commission that by voting on the consent agenda, he or she affirms that he or she has read the staff report and is in full agreement with the conditions. Mr. Secretary, may I get a roll call?
Ms. Boyd? Mr. Gill? Yes. Ms. Love?
Yes.
Ms. Payne? Yes. Mr. Warren?
Yes, with the exception noted.
Okay. Ms. Cox?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. If you're here for any of those cases just listed on the consent agenda, you have been approved. You do not need to remain at the meeting, but are welcome to stay if you want to. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this point, I would like to state that the minor COA applications as listed on the agenda have been reviewed and approved by the Commission. The Commission will now continue with the regular hearing of the major COA applications as listed on the agenda. Mr. Secretary, please call the first case of the regular agenda.
The first case is item number 1, COA 2021-089, 287 Angela Street in the Evergreen Historic District.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant present? Hello, thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Cameron Ellis, 5400 Poplar Avenue, Suite
Okay.
210.
Thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes,
Thank you. Have you had a chance to read the staff report?
yes,
Do you agree with the staff report and its conditions?
yes.
Okay, thank you. We have one in opposition. Did you want to, does anybody on the panel want, the commissions want to see a presentation? Are we good?
Yeah. You want to see it?
Might be nice to see a presentation that just shows what's been agreed to and what hasn't
Okay.
been agreed to by the applicant.
Thank you, Seth.
Right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Aisha Teza with the Division of Planning and Development. Item before you is a retroactive request for exterior alterations to change the front door configuration of a contributing single-family home in Evergreen Historic District. Subject property is a 1.5-story bungalow built in 1923, located on the west side of Angela Street, block between Arden Avenue and Poplar Avenue. This item was held in abeyance during last month's commission meeting in order to provide some time for the applicant to find another option with side lights or transoms compatible with the front door. The original front door had 9-light glass and wood door with 141 transoms and 6-light glass and wood side lights. The applicant replaced the door with 9-light glass and wood door and infilled the transoms and the side lights with brick. So based on the feedback that they received during the commission meeting last month, the applicant is now proposing an option with 3-light glass and wood side lights matching the existing door to be replaced.
Okay.
Staff believes that this option brings back the door to some degree of compliance with the design guidelines and recommends approval with 2 conditions, as stated in the staff report. And this concludes my staff presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Do the commissioners have any questions of staff? Okay, thank you. We know we have one in opposition. Mr. John Jones. Okay, state your name and address.
John D. Jones, 1763 Peach Avenue, 38112.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You have, 5 minutes. No, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I learned last time that 3 minutes goes fast, so I'll try to get to the heart of the
Okay.
matter. So when we were here a month ago, you agreed to put this item on hold. At the back of our comments, EHDA had suggested that we would be acceptable to replacing the doors, side lights, and transom with a newer product found in today's market. When asked about this, Mr. Ellis wasn't able to commit at that time, and board members felt like they needed to give him a month to look over everything that would be involved in replacing these side lights and transom. We didn't mention cost, but it was indicated that it might be difficult to put things back in the same spaces. We did reach out after your meeting to Mr. Ellis, and he did share with us the picture that Ms. Tizelle just showed you of the side lights and the door, and they do look good. The question that we asked in follow-up is, what about the transom? And response that we got, and that email is in the back of your staff report as well. And the response that we got was that Landmark said that the side lights only was an acceptable compromise. Well, that was news to us because it was our understanding coming from the previous meeting that all this information would be shared, and for a compromise, both sides have to agree with it. we've not heard any compelling reason to suggest that there's a physical reason that the transom can't be replaced where it was. So unless and until we hear some sort of evidence of that, we remain opposed to this request, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have questions for the speaker? Does the applicant has 3 minutes for rebuttal if he wants it? Okay. All right. Then at this time, I'll close the public hearing portion of this case, and the commissioners will further discuss the case. May I please get a motion?
For the purposes of discussion, I move to approve case COA 2021-089.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So, discussion? Commissioners, if they have any?
Well, I'll speak from personal recollection. If we were to, I believe the tenor of the conversation last month was one of compromise, and were the applicant to be required to restore the transom, which I don't recall being completely necessary. I don't see that as a compromise. It would be essentially what was there prior. We can debate Munton patterns and those things, but my personal recollection was that we were going to compromise and expand the fenestration around the opening by and adding the side lights was a viable option worthy of discussion and possible acceptance. Anybody else?
I felt like he should restore the transom. I thought the agreement was that they were going to, that the neighborhood had given a very defined scope to restore the door, side light, and transom, and that he was going to follow that scope per the original letter. So I wanted to know just really, I just wonder why it wasn't included with the side lights. But we don't have to ask Cameron that. I'm sure his answer is going to be, it has to do with cost.
Right.
So I'd love to see the transom if possible restored. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels.
I actually recall us talking about that being one of the compromises, that the transom, especially considering when you look at all the other houses along that block, and they all had higher, even porch ceilings, and how that just appeared, and the fact that this particular porch ceiling actually did just hit right on top of where the transoms were. We said that for this particular case, the transoms could possibly be just fine not being there, but we definitely needed that width with the side lights on either side to, again, highlight the aesthetics of this porch.
I was not at the meeting last month, so I apologize for missing that, but just what I'm seeing here, this is a retroactive application. The transom, side lights, and door was removed without permission. Multiple stop work orders were issued, and I feel that it needs to be put back in the original opening. You're already getting new doors that aren't original to the home, so at least the openings should be respected, in my opinion.
I agree. I think the transom, the side lights, and the door, again, it is restoring what was removed from the house. So it's total restoration, and I think the transom and the side lights with the door would help bring the house back to its original state.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I just want to state, I guess, for the record, that I do recall there being some inclination for compromise. Personally, I feel like, actually, I'm not completely sold on what's being proposed. I think that if we're going, if we're going to go through the efforts as we should to improve what was removed from this house, or let me state it differently. If we're going to go through the efforts to restore some of the character of the entryway, personally, I'm okay compromising, and for me, that means omitting a transom. However, I feel like these side lights they're too thin. Yeah. And they're 8 or 9 inches wide. And I see a muntin pattern that matches the door, but I would like to see a wider transom. Mm-hmm. So maybe it would be essentially the square, the rectangle, and the square repeated on each side light. I don't have a product catalog from, the door vendor or whomever, but I don't feel like we're quite there yet. But with respect to the transom, I mean, essentially, what I didn't hear last month was, this is not acceptable, you have to put it back. And what I'm hearing now from 2 commissioners is, this is not acceptable, you have to put it back. So I just personally want to state that I think there's room for compromise, but that's what I've done.
I would actually say, even with your point with the sidelights, because I think both of us noticed that it was thinner than perhaps what that step or what actually encompasses the original opening of the door. So as long as those sidelights hit to where that opening originally was, and I do believe it's a little wider than what those will be, you'll have to confirm. I don't know what the dimensions are, but I'm okay with the sidelights being it, just simply because I see what the porch configuration looks like.
Further discussion? Thank you.
I'd like to say something, and I feel like the door is within character of the house, of the facade. I do understand that the transoms are smaller than original, but I'm in support of the proposed front door.
I do believe they have this pattern on other houses down the street as well, do they not? This particular door pattern. I believe this pattern's on the door, on a couple of the other doors down the street as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we have satellites, with the transom, from my remembrance of me being here last week.
Hey, Madam Chair, if you would like, we can actually, if the commission would like, we can have him speak.
Madam Chair, I'm Josh Whitehead. I'm here primarily to serve as your parliamentarian. So you can reopen the public hearing under your rules, but if you reopen the public hearing, you're obligated to hear both sides for additional testimony, and then re-close the hearing. So
no questions to them?
No questions to them, unless you want to make a motion to reopen the public hearing. I just wanted to let you know the ramifications of such a reopening.
I think we got it.
Okay, so we're good?
We're good.
Not to. Okay. So at this point then, if we don't have any more discussion between the commissioners, do we want someone to update the motion if necessary, or stand as it is? And if so, restate.
Well, I don't hear much consensus here, and that's fine. Well, perhaps the consensus is nobody's thrilled with the revision. So I would like to withdraw my motion, and you guys certainly can vote against the new motion, but a new motion would be to hold this and encourage the applicant to reach a more agreeable solution, at a minimum wider side lights and perhaps a transom, and we can see. So that's the motion, is to hold, and we can see where it comes out. Now, we can only hold things, this would be the last hold, I believe.
We will look into that, but I was going to mention also that you can add additional conditions to the case that might.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in the interest of giving it a chance to add a vote, I'd like to submit a new motion to approve the proposal with the condition that the side lights be widened, essentially to have 2 vertical bays of glass on each side, something more similar to what was seen in the original building, but to not require a transom over the door and over the sidelights.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Okay, can we have a roll call?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Warren,
Yes.
Ms. Cox,
Yes.
Ms. Payne, Ms. Strong,
No.
Ms. Love,
Yes.
Ms. Boyd,
Yes.
Mr. Gill,
Yes.
Chair Tucker.
No.
We have 5 yeas, 3 nays. Motion carries.
Thank you. May I have the next case called?
Yes, Madam Chair. The next case is item number 8, COA 2021-118.
Is it 4?
I thought it, yeah.
4 is what we had said.
Yes, we do have number 4. Thank you. That is the applicant actually wants to discuss this one. So, thank you. Item number 4, COA 2021-111, 1568 Netherwood Avenue in the Glenview Historic District.
Is the applicant present? Can you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Rosa Harris, 1568 Netherwood Avenue.
Thank you. Would you raise your hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Have you had a chance to read the staff report?
Yes.
Okay. Did you agree with the staff report and the conditions?
Everything is perfect except about approximately 10, 11 years ago, before they annexed the Glenview area to the historic area, code enforcement had approved for 60 inches because I had 72 inches fence up and they tagged it and I had to take it down.
Okay. Can we wait for 1 second? Did we have any opposition? Okay. The commissioners want the staff presentation so we know more what she's talking about?
I would.
Okay. Let us do that first and then we'll let you talk.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item before you is a request for exterior alterations to screen in the front porch of an existing structure, new construction of a 144 square feet rear yard shed, and site improvements to install wrought iron front yard and side yard fence with driveway gate in Glenview Historic District. Subject property is a contributing 1.5-story single-family home built in 1902. It is located on the north side of Netherwood Avenue, block between South Villette Street and Roselle Street. These images show the subject property view from Netherwood Avenue looking north. And this image shows the subject property view from South Villette Street looking east. Proposed site plan shows the location of the new shed at the rear right corner of the lot and front and side yard fences along south and west property lines. The front yard fence was proposed to be 4 feet, but the applicant informed me that she would prefer a 5 feet front yard fence in height with brick wall and columns and wrought iron represented by blue dashed lines. The side yard fence is to be 6 feet in height and of the same materials represented by the red dashed line. On the left-hand corner, you can see the fence details shown for the proposed fence to have a 2 feet high brick wall at the bottom, 2 feet wide brick columns, and wrought iron fence in the middle. The shed will be a prefabricated structure with a barn-style shingle roof and with an area of 144 square feet. The front porch will be screened in with transparent mesh and double doors at the porch entrance, similar to what is shown in the pictures provided by the applicant here. Proposed shed and front porch screens meet the design guidelines standards. However, proposed front yard fence is 8 inches taller than what is recommended. That was for the 4 feet height. So it's going to be 1 foot and 8 inches taller than what is recommended in the design guidelines, and no setback is being proposed for the front yard fence. So we recommended approval of this COA application with 6 conditions as stated in the staff report, page 11. This concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Did the commissioners have questions of staff?
Quick question. Was there any discussion about the structure that will support this green porch? I guess the frame.
I believe the frame is to be wood. That was our discussion
Right.
when Ms. Harris filed her application.
Thank you.
Any more for staff? Thank you. Ms. Harris? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't hear the question.
No, you can, did you want to give your presentation or your comments?
No, my only concern was the height of the fence, but everything else was okay.
Okay. Do commissioners have questions for Ms. Harris?
Ms. Harris, are you in opposition of the proposed height of the fence?
Before they annexed it to the historic area, I had already paid for and was approved by the code enforcement of taking the fence down from 72 inches to 60 inches. And I removed the fence, which, so I can put it back up being 60 inches, which is 5 feet.
Thank you.
So let me get this straight. You said that originally you had a 6-foot fence. Originally you had a 6-foot fence around the property, and you took that down in order to put
When I purchased the house, there was a fence up there. It was a chain link fence up there.
that was 6 foot high.
Well, I was not familiar with that. I had to have a permit in order to put the fence up. And when I had put it up, a code enforcement came through and they tagged it, and they had a little note on the tag, to that the fence had to be 60 inches instead of 72 inches. It was a foot taller than what it should have been, what they approve of.
Okay, and then it got annexed into the historical district, and now it's down to 4 feet.
No, it's nothing there because when I was at work, it was a young lady had hit the wall of the fence, and so and plus the man that was doing it, he passed away, so I'm hiring his son to complete it for me.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a little bit confused. Can staff help this out?
Okay. So what we recommended approval for was actually, if I can show you here, a 4 feet fence for the front yard, which follows the blue dashed lines here in the front yard, up to the point of the front facade of the house. Red one represents the side yard fence, which was proposed to be 6 feet in height, and we are okay with it since it's basically facing the public street, on the side street. But we recommended maximum 4 feet for the front yard because the design guidelines for Glenview Historic District limits the height of the front yard fences to 40 inches. So instead of 40 inches, we said 48 would be acceptable.
So right now, there's nothing there?
That's correct.
There's nothing there. If you go back to the Google Street View here, as you can see, this is Ms. Harris's property here, and there's a knee wall here.
How tall is the chain link next door to it?
It is 5 feet because it's 4 feet lower than yours.
And you're wanting the front yard to be how high? Ms. Harris?
60 inches.
Okay.
Because the front yard is like a slope, and where the house is level ground. So it's going to be like put a combination of a brick up to 2 feet in the row, and it's going to go in between with the cobble.
Madam Chair, a question for the applicant. Did you say you've purchased this wrought iron fence? Have you purchased parts or all of this wrought iron fence?
Well, I have purchased material for the house, but it's still there, and I need to get approval before I start buying anything to get a quote.
Okay, well, there's a photograph of a section of wrought iron fence. That's not your inventory that you plan to use for this.
It is going to be just like that.
Like that.
It's going to be like that.
Well, I have some thoughts, but I think I'll save them for our deliberation.
Are any more questions for Ms. Harris right now, or did you want to say anything else, Ms. Harris?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll now close the public hearing portion of this case, and the commission will further discuss it. May I please get a motion?
For the purposes of discussion, I move to approve case 2021-111, subject to 6 conditions as written here.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go.
Oh, yeah. So I think this is potentially going to turn out really nicely. I do have some concerns about the fence, under our ability to understand the fence, and also my mind's eye visualizing the fence as drawn. So if we look at the drawing on the top left of the screen, that drawing is not to scale, and it's showing a 2-foot base and a 2-foot wide post out of masonry, out of brick, that is. But it's showing proportionally a fence on top of it that is certainly not 2 feet wide like the base. And so, while it's not my intent to design from up here, I just want to share my concerns with the commission, and basically ask how we can work through that. If you have, so if we get into the lingo of what makes a wrought iron fence, we have the vertical sticks, those are pickets, and we have the horizontal rails. And so you'll have, at a minimum, you'll have 2 horizontal rails, one at the top, one near the bottom, but there's just not a lot of space left over in the 2 feet of wiggle room, right? If we literally have a 24-inch base and a 24-inch picket, it's gonna, I'm afraid that you won't, even the applicant won't be happy with it. And it would help the appearance if this were to be a 3-foot picket above a 2-foot base. But I guess what I would like to see potentially, and I know we try to move things forward and not hold them, but quite simply with some graph paper with grids, maybe staff or the applicant can try to illustrate this a little bit more to scale. And really, by doing so, I think, protect your investment and make sure you know what you're getting. And I'll close with one last comment. I think it's really important that wrought iron fences and wood fences, when possible, have a plumb or level top. And that's tricky with the slope of the ground. But if you just take a fence and skew it so that it's following the grade, that's generally not how high quality iron fences were made. So that's a separate issue, but those are my comments.
Any more, commissioners?
I agree 100% with what Commissioner Warren was. I agree with what Commissioner Warren was saying. I forget to put my face in front of this microphone. And as you said, not really intending to redesign anything for this, but honestly, just if we were looking at proportions, perhaps the base is not the best idea. You just have columns with the wrought iron in between. And it'll allow a little bit more flexibility as to working with the slope of your property, because very clearly, as you stated, there is a distinct slope. So, but I think this could really turn out quite lovely. So kudos for you making these improvements to your home.
Okay. Do we have any more questions or comments?
One other point that bears mentioning that we need not forget is the screen porch with, again, we don't have a drawing of the screen porch. We have a photograph of the existing house, and we have a photograph of what looks like a sunroom. So I don't know how useful it is to communicate the intent. This is much more secondary in my opinion, but I'd like to prescribe a few guidelines on how the screen porch structure or the frame would work. If we don't, it could literally be anything, and we don't want to leave that to chance.
Thank you. So do we want to update the motion? Carry this motion?
I can try to put some geometry into a motion. Again, this is really pushing the boundary of what I like to do in designing with words. Does staff have any thoughts on how you would like to see this motion? I mean, or do you have any?
Work with staff on this?
Yeah.
Maybe for Ms. Harris to work with staff on this?
Well, one thing I just wanted to mention too, I think that the original proposal in the application was for the 4-foot fence, but I think Ms. Harris is now requesting the 5-foot. So that's something that I don't know that has been resolved. So that would need to be, discussed.
That would need to be addressed in the motion?
Because currently, right now, the application is a 4-foot fence, and this is I think a revision that Ms. Harris is asking for. So if you wanted to consider that, that would just need to be addressed. And then I guess I heard possibly an option to not have the brick base. So that could be part of it. So that the height, kind of the design of the fence. I think that it sounds like, Commissioner Warren, you have some thoughts on how to do that. And if you wanted to take a shot at it, then we could work at tweaking it if we need to.
Question for staff, where did the 40-inch height mention come from? Is that prescribed by the neighborhood guidelines? My understanding is that perhaps there's a 40-inch height as mentioned in the guidelines, and that 48 inches is a compromise already.
Yes, if you look at page 5 of the staff report.
Right.
Under N13, the first bullet point states that a front yard fence should be less than 40 inches in height.
Okay. All right. I have a motion for consideration. All right. With respect to the shed, I'll try to make this by 3 parts. I move to approve this case, 2021-111, subject to the following conditions. With respect to the shed, the condition shall be as written by staff. With respect to the screened porch, the condition shall be as written by staff with the further provision that the wood frame will be a painted wood frame, that the side elevation will have 3 bays of screen. So in other words, 2 interior mullions in addition to the perimeter frame. That the front screening element would have either 2 or 3 bays of screening. In other words, not 6 or 10 teeny little slivers. And that's the end of the screen porch discussion. With respect to the fence, given the concerns about the proportions, I would condition any masonry base to be 16 inches tall, and a picket would be 32 inches tall, resulting in 48 inches in height, which proportionally would look a little bit more traditional and probably hurt the inseam a little bit more if you tried to hop over it. But the applicant would have the option to omit the base. However, the applicant shall include brick piers, but rather than 2 feet wide, making them 16 inches wide, so they don't look like little wall segments. And I guess I would add that the piers would be at equal spacing, not to exceed 6 feet on center. Again, I apologize for all these, but we don't have a drawing, so I'm trying to move it forward.
I know they can work with staff on it.
Yeah. Don't have like one over here, one over here.
I believe I've got the conditions.
Yeah, one final condition would be that the side fence that is allowed to be taller would essentially fall into those major points, with the exception of the height could be as originally conditioned by staff.
Okay, is there a second? And did you get all that? Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, I've got it.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Gill. Ms. Boyd.
Yes.
Ms. Cox.
Yes.
Ms. Payne.
Yes.
Ms. Love.
Yes.
Ms. Strong.
Yes.
Mr. Warren.
Yes.
Chair Tucker.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you.
And now, Madam Chair, we're at item 8.
Okay, thank you.
COA 2021-118, 690 South Mansfield Street, Central Gardens Historic District.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant present? Are y'all both going to speak? Or answer? Okay. Could you both state your names?
Nicholas Couples.
Nancy Shepherd,
An address, please.
690 South Mansfield.
Thank you. And you, sir?
690 South Mansfield.
And your first name?
Nick.
I couldn't hear you, please.
Nicholas.
Nicholas Shepherd? Okay, thank you. Both.
He's having a little difficulty hearing you guys. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, and we're having a little bit difficulty hearing too, so.
Speak up a little bit.
Okay, what'd she ask me?
Nothing yet.
Okay. Could you hold your hand up, please, both of you? Right hand, please. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Have you read the staff report?
Have you read the staff report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Do you agree with the staff report and its conditions?
I agree with the first part that said it's been approved to repair porch roof, but the porch is now going to be pointed, and it's not going to look right with a square window.
Okay.
The house across the street has a house window that's round and the arches.
Okay.
So I bought before a round window
Okay.
to put up there. So that's the only issue.
Yes, ma'am,
So you can
okay.
see the picture of
Okay,
the house. And the other houses in the neighborhood that have the round window. The round window looks better with the pointed roof now. The square
Okay.
window doesn't go anymore.
okay, let me let, we also have opposition, so we're going to let the staff give their report, so we'll understand more of what you're talking about, and then we'll talk to you again, okay? Huh? Oh, she's in support? Okay, oh, I see it.
You don't sit down?
Do y'all want to see it? Okay. Yes, we're going to let the staff show us what, and help us understand what you're speaking about.
Sure, we provided some photographs of some neighboring homes that have a similar.
She's moved them here.
Okay. Yeah, one of those is actually directly across the street.
Mr. Shepherd, excuse me, but
Let-
we're going to do a staff report.
Yeah.
first, and
Then we'll let you speak.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item before you is a retroactive COA request for exterior alterations to change the front porch roof to match the primary roof of the main structure. Subject property is a contributing one-story single-family home built in 1915, and it's located on the east side of South Mansfield Street, blocked between Goodbar Avenue and Central Avenue. This Google Street View shows the structure in its original condition with a low-sloped roof above the front porch. This image shows the current condition of the structure. The applicant wishes to extend the main roof above the front porch to prevent water damage that was caused by the flat and low-sloped roof, the original roof that was above the front porch. We have the sketch provided by the applicant of the alterations, showing that the main roof will be extended towards the front to cover the porch with the same roof pitch and create a front-facing gable on the front facade. Proposed changes alter the original roof structure, however, overall scale, materials, and architectural style of the porch remains. And we recommended approval of this retroactive COA with 3 conditions as stated in the staff report, page 10. This concludes my staff presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners have questions for staff?
Do we have any visuals of the proposed window that the applicant referred to?
I believe the folder that the applicant just handed to us has the example photos of the window that they would prefer, which is a circular window, I believe. It's not in there.
So we don't have a,
He might have something else.
okay. I guess I was thinking of something along the lines of our first case of the day that had a picture of exactly what they proposed. Thank you. That's next door.
Okay. Any more questions for staff?
Is there any indication what the front facade, the front elevation of the house will look like? Is that stucco currently? And what is the gable exterior wall cladding? Is that more?
No, sir, we're asking staff. Okay.
That may be a better question when the applicant actually gets up. So we're not, there are some different materials. I think they would be better able
Okay.
to answer the specifics whenever they come to the podium.
So,
Okay.
anything more for staff? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
One more question for staff.
Okay.
Are there letters in favor or opposition?
David, I was wrong. Support.
Okay.
Are there any objections from staff to the window that is shown or that they are wanting to put in? Is there any objection from staff?
Are you okay with that window?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, the applicants could step forward now. Okay, you have 5 minutes to present your case.
All right, we have 5 minutes to present our case. Okay, I believe the recommendation was to bring the window that was there forward, but we can't do that unfortunately because it's concreted in, so it would tear up the window completely. So, but the initial idea was to have a circular window to match the archways, the 2 archways, and it would be nice to match the house across the street. We brought the roof forward, which also matches the house next door, and I think it fits in nicely with the neighborhood. She's an artist, so she's been thinking about this for quite some time. The house is stucco with concrete blocks underneath. There were issues with the flatness of the roof leaking and needing to be replaced every couple of years. So that's why we needed to bring the roof forward. And so,
every time a tornado comes down my street, it blows my roof off. So I thought I was replacing the roof. I'd make the porch part pointed too, so it would not be able to blow it off anymore. My grandfather built that house and the one next door 100 years ago, and I've lived there ever since. And that's up to me to repair it and make it look good. So that's what I'm trying to do.
yeah, we're about to overhaul that and repaint everything.
How long have you lived at this address?
Well, how long have you lived there?
I've lived there forever. My grandfather lived there, and I stayed there a lot. And
Many years.
Okay.
we moved in when my older son was born 60 years ago.
60
But,
plus.
the roof is, the
What
flat
year is
part of
this
the
is?
roof is floating off, and then the rain comes down and it has
1950.
made the porch roof ceiling. The porch ceiling is not there now, it's all rotted. So I had to do something. I was tired of it. Well, every couple of years I have to re-roof the porch part. But we're trying to repair it and make it look nice.
Yes, ma'am. Did you have anything else to add?
What did you say?
Do you have anything else to add?
Just let me put my pretty round windows.
What kind of artist are you?
Well, I started this in March, and now my roofer's got the virus and his whole family, and so that's still stopped. So,
Ms. Shepherd?
What kind of artist are you?
if you go across the street down Bale Street, I did Mr. Church in Church Park, that sculpture.
Okay.
It does, and I've done a lot of others. I think the next building over has a couple of plaques I did with some people.
Wonderful.
That's awesome. I teach school, and I love teaching the little kids, and I've been doing the heads mostly, sculptures in bronze, and that's my specialty.
Okay, thank you so much.
I wouldn't mind a big studio somewhere. But right now, I got I inherited my grandfather's duplex.
Thank you.
I raised my kids there, and was trying to fix the house.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Did y'all have some questions for Ms. Shepherd? Or him? Y'all good? Okay. All right. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we'll proceed for, I need a motion from a commissioner. Whoever wants to do it, give him a break.
For the purposes of discussion, I motion that we approve COA 2021-118.
Can I have a second?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Could have some discussion? Oh, excuse me, I needed, okay. Did you want me to go ahead and, I messed up on that one. Okay, okay, go ahead.
I'll kick off the discussion, surprise. I'm disappointed with this situation. We have a project from an applicant that's lived in this district since before it was a designated historic district. And so the kind of jovial tenor up here seems odd to me because this is a retroactive application for a project that, to me, is completely changing the massing of this house. And having lived in the district and repaired my low-sloped roof at 1565 Linden, it's not a reason to, a leaking roof is not a reason to extend the gable 6 or 8 feet to the front facade of a house. I did other things, and there are 5 or 10 different ways to solve that without changing the massing of the house. But here we are. So with that out of the way, I have some serious concerns about what this house will look like. Again, here we are without, in my opinion, without proper tools to evaluate what this house will look like. The drawings are rudimentary, and that's not unique, but it is a fact. I'm very concerned that if the stucco that appears around the 2 arches just goes straight up to the underside of the gable, that's going to be a really flat, monolithic facade. And I don't feel strongly in favor or opposed to a round window. I see one across the street. I see oval windows in much larger houses up in their gable. Certainly there's precedent for it. But what I'm concerned about is the ability to marry. Well, I'm concerned principally about the effect of the massing of the house and how this has arrived here, half completed or whatever. And then if we're to give the benefit of the doubt, I'm concerned about how new stucco will marry to old stucco without some sort of trim or fascia board or accent material. And again, I'm grasping because I have a sketch on page 9 that really is a view of the side of the house more than the front of the house. So I guess you call me a skeptic, but those are my opening comments.
Brett, do these changes meet the guidelines for the neighborhood?
I believe they do. I think the guidelines are really just written to encourage things, or the intention is for things to be appropriate. And I think, kind of going back to the term that we have for the approval, the certificate of appropriateness. So, we often do have things that may be changing things, so the guidelines don't necessarily say that things, shouldn't change the massing. I mean, I don't think it's encouraged to change the massing of houses, but in the end, I believe looking at the proposed revisions and are they appropriate? Would they be appropriate? Or maybe a better way to say it, would they be inappropriate? And so I think that's what we're trying to avoid, is something that is inappropriate. Obviously, Commissioner Warren's concerns, and we often see retroactive things that might change the look of something, but it still could be considered appropriate. And I think that's something for the commission to, debate and maybe come to a conclusion of, is it going to be inappropriate or is it appropriate? So I don't think we're going to try to answer a question specifically, talk about not changing a facade. But
I have a question for staff and really a comment for everyone. I'm looking, and by the way, for those in the audience, when you see us on our phones up here, we're typically scanning the street view. We're not checking out, right? So we're using this as a tool. I just wanted to look at the roof line to make sure that there's a natural resolution. It does appear the gable literally goes from the north edge of the building to the south edge, and there's no messy transition to any leftover roof remnants. So that works in the applicant's favor.
And on that thought of even how far is that overhang going to be in the front gable Do we know what the waterproofing, all of that is? You're talking about the transition between the new items and do we know the materiality that's being filled in on the interior of the gable? These are just some of those questions that I have because the information just isn't in here to even know what it looks like. Is it going to be siding? Is it going to be?
I mean, from the framing, from the photo that's in place in the framing, the overhang appears to be extremely minimal.
Yeah.
It's a good question, which would make the front facade even flatter. So if we look at can you pull up page 7 of the application? Page 6 and page 7, it doesn't matter which order. Yeah, so the last rafter there that's in place, appears to be almost flush with the stucco.
Yeah.
And if you go to the next page, that works. There's actually a better photo where you zoomed in on the double window that was there prior.
Oh, I don't have the zoomed in.
Yeah, that's fine. So we can all look at our printout. So page 7, if you have it, there's 18 inches of depth and shadow and visual interest in what we call the rake or the roof overhang at the end of a gable. I'm just concerned about execution. If we approve the concept and the concept's tenuous, but its execution is excellent, then we feel better about approving it. But if if we don't know how it's going to be executed, and when I said the new stucco and the old stucco kind of coming together, maybe they look completely different, and that's no good. What about roofing? Are we gonna? And I know roofing is a maintenance issue, and we technically can't say what color shingles or that you can only put some shingles over here. Yes, you can, but the house might look odd if the shingles. We're gonna have new shingles for 10 feet and old shingles. Again, I guess that's not kosher to opine about, but there's a lot of concerns.
Were they putting back this into here?
I would hope so.
Because
Doesn't
that
look like
totally
it.
changes the feel of the house. If it's, as close as this is up. Looking at the existing condition of the structure and how flush feeling that roof is, and then comparing it to the 2019 page 7 one, it feels like it changes the feeling of the house. And what's going to be in that gable, I just might be missing what's going to be. Are the two staff? The round window, okay.
So I do want to point out that one of our conditions, I believe number 1, it does specify that roof pitch, overhangs, trim, fascia details, and material of new porch roof shall match the existing details of the main roof. So hopefully that means that everything will be still taken into consideration. I'm still a little trepidatious about that transition between this flat gable on the upper side versus what's happening below with the stucco. And maybe that's something that could be, I'm sure, administratively kind of visually taken care of to make sure that that does look appropriate. But I am happy to see that that is one of the notes, one of the conditions. I know that's about a 24-inch window. That's something that would be nice to see in scale. Does that actually look appropriate inside of what the new gable is? So that might be another, as Commissioner Warren likes to say, pull out a graph paper and place that in there, or have somebody do a quick sketch of it just to see how that would look in that since this is the particular window that's been selected. But that would be good to see, or at least be administratively reviewed to make sure that that's appropriate.
I have a question. Do we know who's actually going to do the work? Because it has up there no contractor, NA. I mean, who that's really going to understand what this conversation is about?
I don't believe we know that. And I would say that I think as construction is now, just in general, I think trying to rely on a specific contractor, that could change pretty easily too. So We don't know who the contractor is. I think there are multiple subs, for the different trades, but I'm not quite sure that applicant could answer that.
Yeah.
Well, it could be subs that the applicant is hiring individually. I'm not sure, but we could ask the applicant.
I just wanted to, the reason I asked the question is because the language here, they may not understand. Somebody needs to make sure that they do. I want to change the design of my home. But there's a lot of technical. Somebody
Needs to guide it.
Yeah. Because they spent the money.
Well, and, we do inspect cases, especially ones that we want to make sure that they're following the conditions. And so, as Commissioner Love stated, we do have the condition number 1 that talks about the matching the overhangs and things like that. So we would be looking at the construction, and we could do that, more often on this project and coordinate with the applicant as well.
I just would say that I don't disagree with Mr. Warren's point of view about the massing changes or the architectural detail that might be lost by changing this house. But also, if it meets the criteria of the neighborhood and staff supports it, it's not my taste, but I'm not going to tell somebody what to do with their house and there's no opposition with other neighbors to the changes they want to make. So it's hard for me to want to design it or change it because there's just no opposition against it and it meets the criteria of the neighborhood.
Didn't follow, but she's in favor. Is there any other comments from commissioners? Did you want me to give her before we make a motion? Again? Since I screwed up.
We have a card,
And I passed her.
So I would go ahead and we have closed the public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, let's reopen the hearing.
I'm sorry.
And whatever time she takes, we will also go back to the applicant if he or she so chooses.
I apologize for that. So at this point, I just reopened the public hearing. Okay. Ms. Rainwater? I apologize. Would you state your name and address?
Shelley Rainwater, 1432 Harbert.
Thank you. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Central Gardens Association Landmarks Committee does not have any opposition to this project. We wanted to see a window in the gable, and they're putting a window in. There are plenty of examples of round windows in the neighborhood, including across the street. I walk by the house a lot, and the massing and scale do look appropriate to the house and to other houses in the neighborhood. I'm not sure the front overhang is appropriate. I can't tell from these pictures, and I just can't remember, but as long as that's okay, we're fine with it.
Okay, thank you. Do y'all have any questions, commissioners, for her?
Appreciate your time.
We do, and thank you so much. The applicant has some time if they want to readdress.
And Madam Chair, it should be relatively the same amount of time, so it was a fairly short period, but.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
We don't have much more to say other than we're trying to make this match the neighborhood, and the house right next door has a gable overhanging, I don't know, maybe 1.5 feet. We're trying to match that precisely. So you don't have to worry about it going just straight up and ending. The whole roof will be replaced, so it's going to match all the shingles.
This started out $3,000. It's cost me $11,000 now, and it hadn't even been finished.
Okay.
And these are receipts from buying wood cost $7 a plank, and now it's $60 a plank.
Yeah.
So it's getting I'd like to get it fixed.
Okay, thank you so much.
The whole roof's being replaced.
Okay.
It's in the backyard waiting to be put on the roof. Some of it's on the roof now.
Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Okay. Okay, now I'll close again the public portion, and we need to have a motion, a new one, I'm assuming.
Sure, I'll give it a go.
Okay.
Striking the previous motion and submitting a new motion for consideration. I move to approve case 2021-118, subject to the following conditions. Staff condition number 1 as written. Condition number 2 will be a new condition to allow the applicant's use of the round window as was just circulated here. I believe it's 24 inches in diameter. A new condition number 3, that the infill material, the facade's outermost exterior material within the gable will be stucco to match the house in texture. In other words, it's going to be a wet applied synthetic or real stucco, but not a fake stucco panel like a hardy panel. And condition number 4, that there be some kind of band, architectural trim band between the old stucco and the new stucco of a reasonable size. A minimum of 8 inches would probably look best. And condition number, what would it be up to? 5 or 6? My final condition would be condition number 3 as written by staff.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion further? Okay, could we have a vote?
Ms. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Cox?
Yes.
Ms. Boyd?
Yes.
Ms. Strong?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
No. Okay, yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I know. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rainwater. I'll see it now.
And our next case and final case is item number 11, COA 2021-127, 1353 Good Bar Avenue in the Central Gardens Historic District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Could you state your name and your address, please?
Robert Hanasowski, 1515 Good Bar Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Do you raise your... Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you so much. Have you had the chance to read the staff report?
Yes, I have.
Do you agree with the staff report and its conditions?
Respectfully, no.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We need to see the staff presentation. We have someone in opposition. So if we could have the staff report first.
Clerkship Diggs, Division of Planning and Development. Again, this item is COA 2021-127 at 1353 Good Bar Avenue, and the request is for site improvements to install a 5-foot-tall wrought iron front yard fence. So here's a site photo of the subject property. The existing structure is a 1-story single-family home built around 1952. There is currently no front yard fence enclosing the front yard, but there are to the west of the subject property existing chain link fences that are enclosing tennis courts. So as presented by the applicant, the intention of this proposal is to, again, enclose the front yard with a 5-foot tall wrought iron fence as shown on the site plan here, with the addition of a driveway gate and a passenger gate as well. And this is an example fence detail from a nearby property, so the fence would match what is presented here. And this is being presented as option 1. Based on staff's review of the Central Gardens design guidelines. So as proposed, the 5-foot tall fence does not meet the guidelines in the sense that enclosing a front yard is typically not allowed, and where allowed is typically limited in height to a 3.5-foot tall front yard fence that is transparent. But again, this is typically allowed on estate-sized lots, and this particular lot is not an estate-sized lot. Additionally, the guidelines further go on to state that no front yard fence is often the best approach, and again, the applicant is proposing to completely enclose the front yard with a transparent front yard fence. Additionally, for transparent fences, the guidelines state that there should be a setback for the fence, and the applicant is currently proposing under option 1 to have no setback from the street for this particular fence. So again, this does not meet the guidelines. So staff has proposed an alternative fencing arrangement that we believe is more in line with the Central Gardens design guidelines. And so this option is being presented as option 2. And this would involve installing a less than 6-foot tall front-facing side yard fence that could be wrought iron or transparent, as shown here on the proposed alternative site plan. And then here is a proposed alternative fence detail, again showing a transparent fence that is front-facing that aligns with the existing chain link fencing on the adjacent property to the west. So under this proposal, a 5-foot tall wrought iron fence would be permitted, but again, setback from the front plane of the house at least 6 feet, and again, less than 6 feet in height in accordance with the Central Gardens design guidelines. So with that, staff recommends rejection of the applicant's initial proposal, known as option 1. But if approved, staff would recommend that the commission approve option 2 as presented by staff. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners have questions for staff? Okay. Thank you. Applicant has 5 minutes to present their case.
Okay, yes, I would like an exception. I understand what the rules are. They have gone over them with me, so I do understand that I have some pictures, if you please show them. It's an interesting location, which kind of would be a reason I think an exception would be appropriate in this case. I can be flexible, as I told them, with the height of the fence. We had done one, which we got an approval for some years back, which I'll show you in a bit. That's right up the street. Here we are looking at I'm in the backyard looking up the side. There's a 12-foot fence, chain link, of the whole entire side of the house. Okay, if we go to the next. Here is the east side of the building. It's 2 houses up. The chain link fence where the tennis courts again continue. It goes all the way completely across the whole street. So it's not a very large space between the street and the actual chain link fence as they're existing that has been there for the tennis courts. Okay, if you go to the next one. Here is standing on the front porch. The fence is actually, if you're standing on the front porch and looking over to the west side, the chain link fence comes up to the start of beyond the start of the house towards the north side. I believe that would be the street side. So what I was hoping to get to do would be to, and then we have one, okay, well, let me go tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to bring a nice wrought iron fence, bring it up from the chain link, bring it over. I originally was asking for a 5-foot fence, but could go down to 4, which would be acceptable. Go up towards the street, something that was approved on the one up the street a few years ago. To the east of this, they had requested, one of the caveats was to bring it back 2 feet and put a hedging in, which I did, which would actually soften the chain link fence, that whole corner. The end of that chain link fence is Cleveland. If you went to the other side of the chain link fence, that went to the other side, the south side, that would be Lamar. So I think from an aesthetic standpoint, what I'd like to try and propose, I think would actually soften the look. It's the first house as you turn off of Central, so I think for safety's sake, I think it would just make a nice look coming in here, because it's, you see what's actually there right now. If you could go to the last picture, please. Here is the one that got approved some years ago by the committee. This was a 4-foot rails, 4-foot panels. They required it to go back 2 feet and to put hedging in, which has blended in beautifully with the street, and has been an attractive addition to what we have. And this one is just up the street from the proposed property that I'm speaking of at this point. I know it doesn't fit the standard guidelines, but the house, the location, and the look of it with the fencing and the tennis courts right there don't either, because that's basically the front yard. There's the tennis court too. I mean, it is, what I'd eventually like to do is to, if we get this approved, and I did put in the hedging, I would like to go down the whole side and maybe soften the whole hedge of the.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. I actually, that would be enough.
Okay.
And I'm heartfully requesting that we give this some consideration.
I'd like to can I ask him a quick question while he's up here?
Yes.
What's your reason for wanting a fence?
We've had a lot of problems with people coming up and stealing. It's a security issue. It's right on Cleveland and Lamar. That's a pretty heavy foot trafficked area.
Gotcha.
And we've had a lot of theft.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I appreciate it.
At this time,
So I'm sorry, I have more questions.
Yes, the commissioners can ask questions now.
Okay. What year was that fence approved?
Oh, that front fence, 15 years ago probably, and they did the same guidelines.
And in the case that option 2 is, are you in agreement with option 2, even though obviously you prefer option 1?
It's not going to help at all. No.
Okay.
It would not. There's already a chain link fence where they're proposing to put the wrought iron. There's a chain link right there at the end of the house for the back. So it's attached. They actually had attached it to the tennis court fence. What I was proposing was to bring a nice wrought iron fence over, and then even lower, the 4-foot would be fine, and putting a hedge around it also to kind of soften the whole area, the corner of that street.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions before I try to sit down? Or I don't know what to do.
Do you have some more questions for the applicant?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I see you already have hedges around the property, so why haven't you?
I'm sorry, I can't.
You were talking about a fence and hedges, and there are hedges on the other side of the property. So I was curious as to why you maybe have not already planted hedges in the yard around the property as a barrier or for security purposes.
I see, I've got a hearing issue, so I'm not sure I can hear. But what I wanted to do is that's to the right of the house was attached to that, bring that up and bring it over, and then bring it down this, where these hedges are.
So my question was, there are hedges around the property already on the other side, and you mentioned that you would prefer to do a fence and hedges. And my question,
I'm sorry, I should have been more clear.
so my question was, there's an opportunity, or there is already an opportunity to plant hedges around the perimeter of the property already, and I was just curious as to why you haven't tried that without the fence.
Because it would not you still have an entrance, an ungated entrance, which is what the other house up the street, it has the gated entrance, so.
Right, I understand that there would not be a fence there, but hedges can be used as barrier or security sometimes as well.
It would be a partial security, yeah, but still, a walkway right up the.
Right,
Right up the sidewalk.
but you said you've owned this property for how many years?
I'd say 10 years or so, I'd have to look it up.
And I was just wondering by maybe.
The problem is, as time's going on, there's more and more.
Right.
Theft.
But there are also other examples.
And it's hard to keep anyone in their business.
Right, but there are also other examples in that area where there's hedging that's used for security purposes.
No, there really isn't really much hedging in that area. I've gone up and down those streets. Everyone's putting in on Willette, they're all putting in gates. I mean, gates, brick and wrought iron. I've gone up Harvard. No, there really isn't a lot of hedging.
In years past, hedging was used.
I'm sorry.
He can't hear you.
In years past, hedging was used. That's all I was saying. In previous years, hedging was used. I understand that fencing is used now, but I'm saying you said 10 years. I'm saying within that 10-year time span, hedging has been used as well as security.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Since I hedged and gated the other property, I believe there have been no further issues on that one. So the point case would be that having the combination did turn out to be a very good option.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have Ms. Shelley Rainwater with Central Garden Landmarks in opposition. And Ms. Rainwater, you are already sworn in, so you have 3 minutes.
Okay, Central Gardens Landmarks Committee is in opposition of this project. It's a unanimous opposition. The fence is not, a 4-foot fence is not going to solve a problem. Anyone can jump over it. In addition, the example Mr. Hansofsky gave of his personal home was approved more than 25 years ago, I believe he told me. I'm not sure if it predates the rules, but when one walks by that, the house is, the hedges are here, and it takes away the feeling that we want of our neighborhood, of an open front yard neighborhood. In addition, the fence next door, the University Club, is not in the Central Gardens Historic District, but if he put a fence back there, even with that, we wouldn't object. It's far enough back from the fence. The examples he gave of fences that have gone up are on estate-sized lots, which per UDC is a minimum of 22,000 square feet. The lot in question, his rental property, is 8,640 square feet. I fear that if this gets through, he's going to do the house next door, which he also owns as a rental property. There are no examples other than his personal residence a couple of blocks down. And we just don't want to see this precedent. There's a lot of foot traffic throughout the neighborhood. It's everywhere, not just in front of his house. We have a great security detail, Phelps, that he could subscribe to, and a good security system with cameras. I can't imagine he's really having any trouble attracting renters to this house because there's not a fence out front, but I may be wrong. But we are absolutely opposed to a front yard fence.
You have questions for Ms. Rainwater? Thank you.
Thanks.
The applicant has time for rebuttal.
I am hoping that, I understand all those issues. I'm hoping that as they did, you have the power to see the understanding to see the issues, the corner, the location, that I find that hard to believe. I did not know that the tennis courts, the Central Gardens goes to set up Cleveland, I was always told. Now, unless they moved it in, I'm not sure. But as I'm seeing the problems, the location, and the fact that what I'm going to try and do is going to be quite attractive, I'm hoping that the authority that you have to make that happen, you'll see hopefully the beauty and wisdom of trying to secure it. And I can give you records of people that won't. The situation is getting worse. It is the last house on the street in Central Gardens, and has by that nature very unique issues unlike other houses. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now I'll close the public hearing portion of this case, and the commissioners will further discuss. May I have a motion?
For the purposes of discussion, I move to approve case 2021-127.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Start your discussion. Do you have any?
Sure. I'll jump in. So this is quite contentious, I can tell. The applicant's correct that the tennis courts to the west are in the Central Gardens district. It does extend to Cleveland from his south property line. And, you know, the U Club has gobbled up houses over the years and torn them down. So I don't debate or I don't take issue with the applicant's assertion that these three homes are very unique. They're exceedingly unique for the district in that they have a huge institutional neighbor that has bookended them on each side. And I'll try to be brief with my next thought, but the guideline is pretty clear. And as much as I like to look for wiggle room, I don't have my book, but Ms. Rainwater copied and pasted the applicable sections of the guideline. It says, front yard fences shall only be allowed if appropriate to the visual character of the block and only if historic examples exist on the block. And it goes on to say, in exceptional circumstances that it is allowed, it should be no more than 3.5 feet tall. But I think that height of the fence is moot because it says only if historic examples exist on the block. And we've had cases here, notably the infamous fence on Willette that is being allowed, although with its own trials and tribulations, but it's being allowed because Willette is full of estate-sized lots that have other existing historical fences. So personally, I feel that, unfortunately for the applicant, I don't think that the district guidelines permit this fence as proposed.
I agree with Commissioner Warren. Unfortunately, this is pretty clear. There's no front yard fencing allowed on this size lot in Central Gardens. And I'm sympathetic to the porch pirate issue. I also live in the district, but it's just not allowed and not appropriate for this block.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Commissioners?
I was trying to just scout the entire street, just the block. Just is there anything that could possibly match what you were trying to do? The closest I could come to was there at 1353 Good Bar, and that particular house has what appears to be low-standing shrubbery that's more of a fencing versus an actual physical fencing. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. But again, it doesn't take away from the character. It's obviously still pedestrian friendly. You can still see into the space, into the home. So the connection issue that we're worried about in this particular instance is not a point for that one. And unfortunately, we do dream big. We hope that we can make our neighborhoods better, and to put something of a permanent nature in front of even your home where it is in this state of time it could have ramifications down in the future that we have to think about. And it's just, as I said, right now, that is not something that this particular guideline allows.
Any other comments?
I agree with the comments that have been made.
Thank you. So we need someone to update the motion if
Well, we
necessary.
just vote, we're voting on a motion,
Yeah.
and it sounds like the
Yeah.
voices I've heard are no votes, so I think we leave the motion as is.
Do we need to
Just a reminder that all motions are made in the affirmative, and so
Correct.
We do have an option number 2 that was proposed by Ms. Shute Diggs that could be.
Oh, okay. I'd like to amend my motion. So my motion is to approve case 2021-127 with the only path forward, if the applicant were to accept it, would be condition number 1 as written by staff. That's a pretty confusing wording.
I think it's just, you can just motion to approve
as conditioned by, yeah. So my motion revised for the last time here, hopefully, is I move to approve case 2021-127 with approval as conditioned by staff.
Your second?
I second.
Thank you.
Mr. Warren,
Yes.
Ms. Strong,
Yes.
Ms. Payne,
Yes.
Ms. Love,
Yes.
Mr. Gill.
Yes is a vote for rejection.
The motion is made in the affirmative with condition number 1, which allows the option that Ms. Shute Diggs proposed. So it does approve, but with this option.
Okay, yes.
Ms. Cox,
Yes.
Ms. Boyd,
Yes.
Chair Tucker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. Hold on. Do we have any new business or? You have any new business? Okay, thank you. The next meeting will be September the 23rd. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?